on military side, it's much more clearer structure, understanding, mission, goal.
Without the community, without the unity, without everything that is created by citizens and civil society, many of the other things fall apart.
For me, actually, security culture is kind of integral component of a resilience mindset.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center, and I'm your host, Miroslava Yaremkiv. Building resilience is a critical endeavor in today's world, where emerging threats and modern warfare demand innovative approaches. A country's ability to cope with major crises such as wars rests on its capacity to connect organized actors as well as voluntary actors and non-governmental organizations in a whole-of-nation approach, to interact and utilize all resources available to society, and etc. Such systems make up the resilience of the country and comprise centrally coordinated governmental actors, commercial actors, volunteers, and individuals, all driven by their values and norms and restricted by the resources at their disposal. In today's episode, we'll analyze international experiences in enhancing security resilience and adapt them to Ukraine's wartime conditions, focusing on how the security system can adjust to new challenges. If you want to learn more about the subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. NATO has made it clear that each NATO member country needs to be resilient to resist and recover from a major shock, such as a natural disaster, failure of critical infrastructure, or a hybrid or armed attack. Resilience is a society's ability to resist and recover from such shocks and combines both civil preparedness and military capacity. This overarching requirement encompasses resilient supply chains, resilient infrastructure systems, and resilience against disinformation. It also includes requirements for transportation and healthcare systems that can manage sudden mass movements of people and mass casualties. Raidma, member of the Estonian Parliament, expert of civil protection and humanitarian aid, and head of Estonian Delegation to the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, will provide Estonia's perspective on the crisis situation in Ukraine.
I'd like to start with maybe a bit more global issues, just to explain the challenges and then maybe give some reasons why it is today so unusual situation, because normally we're thinking that we had decades to be ready for everything, for disasters, for catastrophes. First, there is two big things, defense and civil crisis. They have different structures, understandings, and principles. Usually, all countries thought that they're going in following order. It means first is civilian crisis management, and then if war happens, then going to be an highest crisis, war. And in war, primary main work is defend your country, your territorial integrity, your independence. Why it was like that? Because we have international law, and international law talks about rules during the war and protection of the civil society during the war. And everyone believed that. And today in Ukraine, we see that terrorists, Russia, ignoring that. It means we are in a new situation where those two things are together. On one side, all defense and military side, and on the other hand, all civilian crisis management. And in quite long period, as Andrei mentioned. And this is a challenge. Maybe some differences between of those two words to better understand. First, in military side, it's much more clearer structure, understanding, mission, goal. And also mechanism, let's say, works in vertical philosophy. In civilian side, it is not like that, because there are a lot of players, a lot of responsible agencies, ministries, a lot of goals. And there, the framework is resilience. How to have a resilient state during the crisis, especially here in Ukraine during the war. It includes all vital services, let's say social, pensions, etc. Then resilience of infrastructure, electricity, water, communication, and then resilience of population, society. And you can imagine how many players involved on all this field. And because that main idea of resilience is how to turn this vertical ideological here in horizontal. Because key word is cooperation and coordination of the cooperation for state players.
After the end of the Cold War, many nations capitalized on the peace dividend and reduced civil preparedness and military capability. Due to the Russian war in Ukraine, societal resilience is once again at the center of attention in many nations. Ukrainians have demonstrated remarkable resilience, from the individual to the societal level. The war also highlights the interconnectedness of military, civil, and public-private resources, the dependency on functioning supply chains and critical infrastructure, and the fact that the aggressor targets them all. Clearly, researchers must study all these aspects of societal resilience simultaneously. Peter Berg, deputy head of the NATO representation to Ukraine, will elaborate more on this.
So, from a NATO point of view, we have come a long way. We started out through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, very focused on civil emergency planning. To today, look at baseline requirements for broad preparedness and response across all sectors of society, so the whole of government point that was made before. And that includes civil-military cooperation. And what we have focused in on is what we call 7 baseline requirements. They lay the foundation, and it's continuity of government and critical services, it's resilient energy supply, ability to deal with uncontrolled movement of people, resilient food and water resources, ability to deal with mass casualties, resilient telecommunication systems, and resilient transport systems. We have found that those 7 areas lay the foundation for such a sectoral approach in whole of government. We have discussed that with Ukraine as well, and Ukraine actually went further than that. And they said, well, we think there is need for an 8th area, which is societal resilience. Because there was an understanding already at that point in time in 2001, when we discussed this with them, with Ukraine, that without the community, without the unity, without everything that is created by citizens and civil society, many of the other things fall apart. And I think that's the lesson that we also found in COVID, many of us, the importance of civil society. We definitely did that. So moving and focusing a little bit more into citizens and civil society as fundamental actors in enhancing national resilience. There's various different things you could look at. Much of it is about informing, educating, and enabling citizens and societal groups to participate in discussions. And that's not always the case. The enablement is often very difficult. The access to the discussions, to the decision makers, and so forth. Citizens, they are partners, but they are also actors. If they're not actors, they can't be multipliers. They can't enhance the response, so that's really important too. And then there is the trust between citizens and citizens' government. And that can only be based on communication and, as far as we're concerned, following democratic values in order to establish that trust. Citizens obviously also support defense. But here we need to understand what are the roles and responsibilities. Where is cooperation? Where is the need for awareness? And nations here are put up and structured in different ways. And this is very much a national choice on how you want to do this. But there has to be a dialogue about how to do it. You need to look at public information and education, and that is from preventive actions, mitigating effect, the fact that we have all the air alerts that we all hear these days, but also thinking about the reliability of information and where we get the information from and the channels. You know, is everything on Telegram the right information? Do we have to think a little bit about this and make a judgment ourselves in what we believe? And that's because of the mis and disinformation that we also need to deal with because of the social media and the environment that we face today.
The key to Ukraine's victory in the war is the resilience and consolidation of Ukrainian society, its readiness to face new challenges, overcome difficulties, maintain trust in the authorities, and foster a sense of solidarity among its citizens. According to sociological studies, Ukrainians demonstrate a high level of resilience to the challenges of war, a readiness to achieve victory, and a refusal to make concessions that would threaten the sovereignty and very existence of the Ukrainian state. Among the main signs of patriotism, citizens particularly highlight proactive civic engagement through volunteer activities and the readiness to defend their country in the ranks of the armed forces. Dmytro Teperik, leading expert on civic resilience and Director General at the NGO Resilient Ukraine, will share his thoughts on this.
I understand sometimes there might be seen contradictions between resilience, security, and defense. And for me, actually, security culture is kind of integral component of resilience mindset. And by that, I mean it's basically combines a range of different skills, practical knowledge, but also attitudes. And it means that it could be cultivated, it could be trained, and it could be enhanced. So you just need proper tools for that. I just would like to highlight one tool which, in my opinion, is particularly important for resilience mindset or security culture, is actually capacity of foresight, which enables us to evaluate and to assess both also known and predictable risks, but also facilitate kind of expansion of thinking horizon regarding the potential future threats. And this foresight tool is based on multitude of different scenarios, future scenarios, and could be employed within specific instruments and tools of like crisis exercises to engage different communities at different levels, local level, regional level, but also national level. So let me just present you very briefly our own experience, already mentioned here several times that our team at Resilience Ukraine conducted a series of cross-sectoral scenario-based crisis exercises in the 8 regions of Ukraine, various regions of Ukraine. And actually these events, they were quite multidisciplinary by their nature, which means that we engaged not just, let's say, regular suspects and regular stakeholders of resilience already mentioned here, obviously the law enforcement agencies, emergency services, the military, local and regional administrations, but also the media, local media, also opinion leaders and representatives of civil society and NGOs in the respective regions, but also teachers from schools or from universities, so educational sector was there, and also private businesses. It wasn't an easy task to invite all of them for a 2-3 day training event, which was again based on future threats scenarios. So they basically had to play. So our experience showed that first day they spent basically arguing about established protocols and algorithms. But then we created a kind of work atmosphere for them to be, let's say, more creative and more innovative, as Matti already mentioned, to focus not on the existing protocols and algorithms, but finding solutions for the problems specified in the scenarios, but also trying to expand the thinking about future threats. Because again, speaking about with the military terms, military servicemen often, not sometimes, but often, they are preparing for the past wars. And again, a resilient mindset would think about other threats in the future.
You've been watching a special project by Ukraine Media Center dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!